Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do. It's this idea of an hourglass, right? So you guys all know an hourglass. I apologize for my drawing. Actually, that was pretty good. That wasn't bad. Here, right? So there's sand right here, and then there's obviously a bottleneck of where that sand passes through. This is analogous to the college gymnastics season. It is inevitable that the more you do for college gymnastics season, you will get tired, you will get very, very kind of cranky joints. It just happens. It's just the way it goes. That's just called being involved in sports. That's not gymnastics. That's not anything in particular about you or the coaching staff or anyone. That's just the reality of sports. So the two things that can be done to make this be a little bit more comfortable is we can try to add more sand into the hourglass before college gymnastics season starts, aka right now, right? The way we do that is through strength conditioning, right? Through properly dosing yourself with rest and recovery. That's why the part of this talk on recovery is so important. You don't get sand in the hourglass by just working harder and working harder and working harder, right? Picture each of these lines as that optimal dose of work followed by the optimal dose of recovery, and then you get stronger or you get smarter or whatever else happens. Does that make sense? So those lines only show up when you have that equation working on both sides. Those lines don't show up when you just keep killing yourself and going harder. You just put yourself in that deficit and you never come out the other side stronger or faster, right? So you can put more sand into the hourglass by doing that in preseason now. Ideally, that starts in the summer, right? You still kind of want to work out, you do some skills, you put some new ideas together, go for a run, all that kind of stuff. But the other thing that can happen is that we can narrow the rate at which the sand is going through the hourglass. Okay, so what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is by being intelligent with your training, which is more the coaching staff, and they got that figured out, I'm sure, but also with you being smart about what you're doing of all those little 1% things to take care of yourself, whether that's mentally or emotionally or physically, all of those little things that can maybe do preventative work can slow down how fast the sand goes through the hourglass, right? And so let's use the extremes here. Say gymnast A, not at Yale, definitely at another university, probably not Ivy League. They go way too hard all the time. They cram for their tests, they study all the time, they never take time off, they ignore all the sports medicine recommendations from their trainers, they don't do anything the assignments ask, they just do whatever they think is best, right? If you can picture how fast the sand is going to go through the hourglass, that person's going to be dead by 1 month of the season, right? They're not doing anything to take care of themselves, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. They ignore all the activities they love because I got to grind in season and I got tests. They don't do anything fun, they just completely crush themselves, right? The sand is going to pour through the hourglass. And they're going to be halfway through season and their ankles are going to hurt and they're going to be burnt out and they're probably going to struggle with depression, anxiety, and mental health issues. They're probably going to not do great in their tests, right? Versus, hopefully if we can talk about some of the things on the rest side, especially if we can narrow these things by talking about how do I get 1% better at my sleep? How do I get 1% better at my mental health through activities I love? How do I plan my schedule so I can get 30 minutes to watch Squid Game? I don't know why I keep saying Squid Game. I watched 30 minutes of it before, but I haven't even watched the whole thing. But something else usually, I don't know. But if I can find 30 minutes in my schedule to do something I genuinely love and not feel guilty about doing that because I'm not studying, that was definitely a big problem of mine. That's how you can, at the end, right? So think about maybe 3 years ago, right, before you did supervision, this was you at the end of season, and maybe this bandwidth equals falling on floor in the last rotation when you want to really stick that, or just landing short, or your legs feel like concrete going the last couple weeks of the weekend. You just can't seem to get recovered, right? You're overtrained. It's called non-functional overtraining. It's not good, right? Versus, you think about if maybe we can get 10% more sand in the hourglass with all the stuff we talked about today, and maybe we can narrow the bottle by 10% of how fast it goes through, well then you have 20% more to work with when the last 2 meets of the season come by. And maybe you can land that ball. Maybe you can. I'm not saying you're gonna, but you're trying to do everything in your control to maximize a positive outcome. Right? That's how I live my life. That's how I teach people to live their life. I can't control what this person does or what somebody else does. Whether we're talking about a test going terribly wrong because the questions were, worded terribly, or you just couldn't make it to practice that day for some reason. But if you can do everything in your control to try to chalk up 10 to 5 more percent throughout the couple weeks, the hope is that at the end of the year, when normally you feel terrible, you're a little bit less stressed with your tests and you're a little bit more prepared for those meets, and maybe you do have a performance that you're happy about or you're excited about, because starting from here, we added more on top, we controlled some of that stuff there.